Welcome to Family Business Breakthroughs, where we bring you time-saving, money-making strategies to improve your business even more. With over 3 decades of experience serving multi-generational family businesses, we've got time-tested solutions that get you the results you're looking for. Listen in and get ready for your next breakthrough. I'm your host, Jim Berner, and today I have co-host with me, Sheila Janan. Sheila, how are you today?
I am wonderful and so happy to be here. Thank you,
I
Jim.
love it. So, Sheila, they say cash is king, right?
Oh,
But
yeah.
what happens is when it's gone, and your people are the ones who are driving it, right?
Yes.
And some of the best stories I love hearing are people. It's always very interesting. Sometimes you never know what you're going to get.
Indeed.
And today we have Betsi Bixby, founder of Meridian Associates. Betsy,
Hey
you have over
guys.
30 years of experience supporting family businesses, and your stories and your insights and all the value that you provide to family businesses, they're rooted in real world practice. It's not just theory. So I love
Well,
it.
good. And I love sharing the stories as well because I think we all learn from others and makes us
Hmm.
sharper and like you said, Jim, people is what makes the world go round, right? It's what makes
Hmm.
our businesses money. So, yeah,
Right.
pretty fun.
So, Betsy, share with us today, because as always, you always share great stories, with the team, with Sheila and I. We'll always be trying to figure out, what's the next best thing. And we usually get it from just general conversation. It starts with stories. So, love for you to just kind of tell us what we were talking about previously. And, we'll get into some questions here as well and dive into it a little deeper.
Awesome. Well, when we started talking about people, there's a concept in Meridian Method that we call full employment. And I was talking to a company that has quite a bit of retail as well as wholesale, but retail was where their people problem was. And what was happening in that company was I would ask them, how many positions are you short? How many people are you short? And typically it was like 40 or more at any
Ooh.
given time. Yeah, like huge, right? And so we started talking about, and I was talking to their HR manager, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I mean, we don't have a hiring problem. I can hire anybody I want. They just don't stay." So they had, I shouldn't laugh about it, but it was, I mean, it's just like this
Yeah.
huge revolving door, right? And so, like, they're hiring like, 8 to 10 people a week or whatever, but they're just not keeping them, is what it turned out to be. So, of course, and Jim, you talk a lot about different generations.
Hmm.
The HR manager said, "Oh, it's just these kids, right? It's my God, they don't want to work. They don't want to, so it's their fault, right? It's them, not
Yeah.
us."
And it
Always.
And
costs money. So much money there to lose
oh my
them.
gosh, yeah, and actually, as we were starting to work on this, Sheila, I had them determine the cost of turnover, and it was over $2 million for the company that they were losing because of turnover, even if we didn't get it like exactly right. So it got everybody's attention, and so we realized, okay, they're hiring like a lot, but they're losing them. So why is that? And as we looked at it, there were so many different reasons for it. But basically, because they had such a huge need, they were hiring anybody who could fog a mirror, basically. And then because they were so shorthanded, they would put them into a role without really training them, right? So I want to give you guys a spoiler alert,
Mm.
is that they actually got to full employment. So if anybody's been through this, I want to tell you, you can do this. All right. So we started talking about, okay, you don't really need a warm body. You need somebody that's going to fit the culture, right? And you actually need to slow this down a little bit. But then also we looked at, okay, how are you doing this? And it was really old fashioned way of running an ad, and then the people would go into the store and the manager would interview him. I mean, it was really inefficient. So we said, okay, let's change this up. So we got into a more efficient where one person could be dealing with these applicants. We changed up their ads. We did a lot of different things. But then we said, okay, we've got to change this onboarding system, because even if we've screened better and we've got good culture fit and we're starting to get this kind of turned around, if we just throw them in there, they're going to be frustrated and they're going to leave. So we also realize that, okay, we've got to train up the managers in these retail locations so that they can actually work with their team members and figure out if they're struggling or what's happening. Um, so this was it was a really interesting project over a series of months. Now it's probably been 18 months. And really working on culture, working on hiring process, working on onboarding, and it's working because I just actually talked with them today, Jim, and they were down
Mm.
to where they only need 8
Oh,
in their
wow.
retail.
Mm.
Yep. Yep. But they've had a lot of changes. They've changed supervisors, they've changed managers. Like their whole culture is changing to a culture of people appreciation, for one. And then the other thing they did was put in a pay for performance system. So now when people are actually doing the job well and they're sticking around, it's showing up in their paychecks too, which is, is always good.
I got a question after hearing that story. So, as well as a business owner and managers, I hear this story and I'm like, okay, well, wow, 18 months sounds like a long time, but is help me see where the time it takes to create a new method actually pays. Like, I know you've spoken to that a little bit, but can you speak about like how long the process might take to implement to see those rewards?
Yes. Well, it was like peeling layers of an onion, right? So, first we had to change up the hiring process. So, that worked, right? So, now we're getting in decent hires. So, we could see the steady stream of progress. So, it wasn't like it took the whole 18 months to get it right. There was gradual improvement, there was profitability that was changing, the cost of turnover was going down. So, we basically say for every person that turns over, you got a minimum $2,500 that's costing you, and it may be a lot more. In their system, because they were so short, it was actually more because there was overtime involved. So, in their situation with retail, if they didn't have people to staff, it also meant then that either a salaried manager was going to burn themselves out, which was happening as well,
Mm.
Mm,
or they would have to pay overtime to the people who were there. So
mm,
I would say within 30 days, though, Sheila, there was a change, and they could see that change. It took a bit to realize, though, that, oh, it's more than just the hiring process. I mean, we talk about the hiring process, getting that right. We've got lots of tools in that arena, but it was more than that, right? So we had to go in and make sure that the culture changed. And when you're talking about culture change in a pretty good sized retail organization, it doesn't happen overnight, but it's worth
yeah,
it. It's worth it, right? Because
yeah,
2 million bucks to the bottom line is not, chump change.
it's not.
No, not at all. And, I just want to back up real quick because we talk about, culture, culture, culture. It's a buzzword that we consistently
Mm.
hear. But I think that there's trouble that when you initially start with culture, like people are like, how do you even do this? So, how does someone hire to culture? What does that
Yeah.
process look like? Or what's a quick win that somebody could get just by doing this?
Well, this company had defined core values. They just weren't using them in their hiring process. So that was one of the quick things that we did, is to say, look, like I said, you can't just take a warm body. They've got to be a culture fit. And
Mm.
so there was some screening questions. It was really easy for them. We used situational screening that just got the people to answer questions that let them know right away if they have a culture fit or not. And, it has changed. I mean, it's just amazing to see. They have very collaborative, they're hiring people that actually really want to work and don't mind hard work and will do the things that it takes and actually, step up for extra things. So yeah, culture is all about where a company's values are, and then are you hiring people that have the same values?
And you said situational context is there. Is that like, hey, let me give you an example of like a situation. How would you handle this?
Actually, what I did with them, Jim, yes, you can do it that way, but
Yeah,
it was also asking a question that was like, when this has happened to you in the past, tell me what you've done.
gotcha.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay, so it's really relating it directly to the person on how they've done it to themselves and,
exactly.
okay, okay, gotcha,
Yep,
gotcha.
yep.
And
So,
those
for
are
instance, one of the things that we put in there because they wanted honest people that would do hard work is, tell me about a time when you were asked to work extra time at the end of your shift when you really didn't want to. What did tell us about what happened,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
Those kinds of things can tell you a lot of information.
right, and then what you're saying, I think it is, and tell me if I'm wrong, but then you're directly relating those to your core values, and that's how you find the fit.
Yes. Well, it's more at this point that HR knows all those core values. When you're dealing in retail, it's not like you're doing a senior leadership position where you're checking out, like it's really got to be a spot on fit. But you've got to make sure that people are honest, that they're going to want to do extra things, that they're not afraid of hard work, that,
Mm,
that a challenge is something that they'll tackle and not run from, those kind of things. And you have to do that super quickly with the retail position. So they had to, in the efficiency part of the hiring process, we got them into a very consistent screening. So it's like,
ah,
pre-screen. They're like,
Mhm.
what do you mean? They just need to be able to breathe. Like,
right,
no, we have to pre-screen. So
right,
we did
yeah,
all that like super quickly and get them to the applicants who had the best chance. We also looked at their successful people because again, they had either really long-term employees that have been with them forever, or they had these newbies, but there was nobody like in the mid. It's like, oh
right.
yeah,
Mhm.
I've been working for him for 20 years. I love this company, blah, blah, blah. But there wasn't anybody that was like, oh yeah, I've been around for 2 or 3 years. So pretty
So,
interesting.
well, that's really good because that's a good segue in because the next thing I really wanted to talk to you about were these individuals that quit super quickly. And so you guys identified that there was an onboarding like gap. So
Oh
what
my
are
gosh.
like the gaps that they had with onboarding or what are the most common gaps that you kind of see with onboarding systems that people can improve
Yeah,
or
so with
improve?
Meridian's onboarding, we take people through a method, right? Which is you absolutely have to let first off in the interviewing, you have to let them know all the different things that they would be doing, and then you have to train in each of those individual areas. And typically, what was happening in these retail locations was they would throw them on to a cash register, basically, point of sale system too early, and they were deathly afraid they were making mistakes. But Jim, the killer was when they told them they had to clean the bathroom.
Oh, oh man.
And that wasn't disclosed in the
Oh, yeah.
beginning, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So
Yep.
we've had retail companies that have said, okay, we're not going to have our bathrooms open to the public. You see that in some stores you go into. In this case,
Hmm.
they couldn't do that. They had to have bathrooms open. And so we started changing up in the interviewing to make sure they were okay with that. We've had other retail chains that have actually hired services to come and clean bathrooms so that their associates don't have to. But in this case, they do have people, and now they're screening to make sure that they'll do it. It's just part of the job. There's no surprises.
That's good. Yeah, the last thing I want is, "Hey, this is what else you gotta do here today."
Uh-huh.
And then
Yeah.
but it's a good
Clean
way.
staff kitchen and
Yeah, right. Well, you remove that friction point too, right? And it's like you said, somebody was like, "Okay, look, I'm losing hires, and the cost of a hire, if we're saying $2,500 or whatever percentage of what that looks
Yeah.
like, to just hire somebody else to be able to come in and do it." Well, what an easy way, but it's outside of the box, right? And just talking to these people, they're giving you the feedback.
Yeah. And it's funny, Jim, because in our Meridian members website, we have a recording of one of Walmart's most successful managers. And I actually learned this from him when we did that interview. And he said, one of the last things we do with our cashiers is to say, now, somebody's kid just threw up on your, what do you call that? The little checkout
Yes, like the
thing that
conveyor
moves.
belt deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What would you do? And he literally said there were people who said, I don't want the job. And he's like, great. We don't want you either. So I just thought that was amazing, right? He said, we didn't do it right away. We just did it at the very end to just give them some, like stuff happens, right?
yeah.
And to see how they would handle it. So I took that from him because he had like the best stay records, retention
Mhm.
records for Walmart in the
Mhm.
entire nation. And I just happened to run into him at a meeting that I went to. Just great guy, and I wanted to learn all the secrets because obviously he was doing something really well. And I just thought that's amazing that you'd say something like
Mm.
that in your interview process, right? So the
Yeah.
bathrooms in a store are exactly that, right?
I would have said move to the next, station at Walmart. I would be like, "I'm just moving from 7 over to 8." So,
Clean up in 7.
and I would have
Yeah.
said, "I'm trying to maintain efficiency, so I'm gonna move everybody over there." So, that would have been my answer.
Uh,
Hopefully hey, look, hopefully they would have had a good
that's
time
why
with
you're not a cashier at Walmart.
Well,
That's exactly one of the reasons.
well, I love how you mentioned Meridian members and all the tools we have there, and how, sometimes even companies that have been around for several decades just need a slight shift in perception to get huge results. So that's always a great story to hear that.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
it's really fun working with, super successful companies. Like these guys are super successful. They just had a problem and they just thought that everybody's having that problem. We do too. It's not solvable. It's just part of where we are post COVID or whatever. It just is what it is. So to me, it's really exciting to be able to challenge that mindset and say, no, Meridian Method can get you beyond this and it can be way, way better.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Betsy, I know your time is limited, so I want to say thank you for, joining Sheila and I today and sharing the insight and the story that you did. As always, I want to encourage people to go back, pause at certain points, jot down notes, because a lot of these things are actionable that we have in here. As Sheila mentioned, we do have Meridian members where there is Meridian Method that's specifically on there to be able to help your family business. We're always here to be able to help serve you and your family. And if you're looking for any succession planning, leadership, next gen coaching, you want to attend one of our great events, come meet us face to face. We love that. Check out the show description for the notes and links to our website. Feel free to reach out with any questions or comments. We love getting those from you. Hit the subscribe button and catch all the new content. Thank you for listening in, and we'll see you next time on Family Business Breakthroughs.
Thanks, everyone.